Today, I wanted to dive into the background of my godfather, meteorologist Nate Johnson. A longtime resident of North Carolina, Mr. Johnson has seen and covered countless natural disasters both in and out of the state with WRAL and NBC. For the purposes of this video essay, though, we will focus on our interview that dove into his experience as a student at North Carolina State University as Hurricane Fran made landfall in North Carolina in 1996. At NC State, Johnson spent his time studying computer sciences and meteorology. Upon asking Mr. Johnson why he began pursuing such a career path, not totally relevant to Fran, but definitely relevant to my interests, he explained that his fascination was first piqued by a series of tornadoes that he watched in Winston-Salem in May of 1989. Upon seeing the intensity of the disasters, he remarked that he felt it in his bones. His future would be spent studying weather. As a sophomore in college at the time, Johnson was no stranger to North Carolina's hurricane season, which typically stretched from June to November, according to readync.gov. So, on the evening that Hurricane Fran made landfall in North Carolina, September 5th, 1996, Johnson was occupied in his dorm, eagerly awaiting the radio broadcast of his favorite band's senior album, Test for Echo by Rush. And yes, they're still his favorite band. As midnight approached, Johnson reported he found his radio signal wavering. Frustrated by the failure of the broadcast, he shut off his radio, covered his camera in a plastic bag, and ventured outside to see what was going on. Johnson reported seeing small amounts of debris and fallen trees, but wasn't aware of the fact that across the state, winds up to 130-plus miles per hour had been battering the coast since around 8 p.m. As reported by the National Weather Service, NWS, and corroborated by Johnson, high winds damaged historical buildings as far inland as Wake County. Previously wet soil, a result of Hurricane Bonnie a month prior, created perfect conditions akin to pancake batter for trees to fall, crushing houses and taking power lines down with them, according to both Johnson and the NWS. RDU International Airport recorded 8.8 inches of rain and wind gusts as high as 79 miles per hour, according to the NWS and FEMA. Over 1.7 million people throughout the state were left without power. Johnson himself recalled that most, if not all, of the stoplights in Raleigh, the number of which was likely over 800, were out the morning following Fran's destructive path. Almost 2 weeks after the storm, the NWS reported that 150 secondary roads across the state were still closed due to flooding and downed trees. According to the National Institute of Standards and Technology, total damages in North Carolina reached over $5 billion. For students who lived in the dorms like Johnson, power and water were restored quickly. Johnson reported it being jarring, though, as a clear discrepancy had formed between the privileged students who lived on campus and his peers who did not. While some on campus's biggest concerns were a lack of cable, other students who lost power and lacked resources ended up gathering in the air-conditioned lobbies of the dormitories, reveling in the shared communal shower spaces, bringing a sense of luxury and family to the common spaces Johnson reported often taking for granted. As the campus worked to restore itself to normal after Fran, the dining halls only offered limited meals, as both employees and supply trucks were impacted by road closures and fallen trees. However, in light of the destruction, Johnson recalled a heartfelt statement he overheard made by Greg Fischel, a prior chief meteorologist with WRAL. After Fran, his children were able to see the night sky for the first time. Although the power outages were frightening and vindicative of a larger wage gap, the disaster still bridged the community together. Additionally, it only fueled Mr. Johnson's interest in the weather and the changing world around him. By the time Hurricane Floyd rolled around in 1999, Johnson was working alongside Fischel as an intern at WRAL. Johnson remarked that he pulled his first all-nighter in college for Hurricane Floyd and spent almost 24 straight hours building graphics and making phone calls geared towards disaster documentation and management. As the warming world raises the percentages of hurricanes that face rapid intensification, and as the speed limit for hurricanes is going up, as Johnson puts it, it is important to remember the importance of community when weather pushes itself to extremes. Johnson reminded me that many think of FEMA as their first responders in a natural disaster, but in reality, your first responders are your neighbors, he says. He believes we are wired as humans to care for one another, and times of strife highlight the importance of doing so. The problem we have with our approach to hurricane management is that, as Johnson put it, we often mistake ourselves for all being in the same boat when it comes to the impact of natural disasters. In reality, we're all in the same storm. Some of us have yachts, some of us have dinghies, and some of us are clinging to pieces of driftwood. It's up to us and our communities to help us find a safe port after a storm, like the students at North Carolina State University after Fran.